All right, I want to talk a little bit about units of measurement because there are some questions that you guys are going to need to know. You're also going to need to know to do this on the exam and the state exam. I am not sure if the state exam gives you this translation, so if I were you, I'd probably try and memorize this just in case. If anybody knows, let me know, because I don't remember. When I took the mortgage loan originator, we didn't do a lot of this, but most of the stuff you had to memorize, how many of this and that. So for example, a mile is 5,280 feet, right? And how many yards would that be? 1760, exactly. That's how many yards? 1 square mile is 640 acres. We've talked about that. But 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. Probably those three you're going to need to know. There's also one other term I want to talk about, used in the commercial world a lot. It's called the front foot. The front foot. That's the foot that you're leaning on when a property touches a street, the amount of footage that's on that street is called the front foot. That becomes important to some commercial people because that represents the amount of exposure they get to traffic. For instance, there's a very popular, well-known, publicly traded grocery company that we repped, whose first requirement was they wanted 250 feet of road frontage because they had done a study that showed in 250 feet, a person in their car could go, oh look, Kroger, I need hamburger, stop and turn in to Kroger. Anything less than that, they see it and go, oh, Kroger, I need hamburger, crap, I passed it, I'll pull into the marsh right there on the other side of the corner. So the front foot is a very important factor to some commercial people because they want that exposure on the street so that cars can turn in and they can make sales. So a lot of times you hear commercial stuff sold by the front foot. I don't care how deep it is. I need 38 feet or 380 feet. And the front foot is defined by whichever is the main road of traffic. So like if they're on a corner, the southeast corner, whichever one's the most populous driven one, that would be the front foot. All right? So what I want to do, let me erase some of this doodle. Let's go back. I want to do just one here basic math problem just so that we can see and get an idea. If we're figuring the area of a square that's 20 feet by 20 feet, how do we get the area of that square? It's 20 times 20, right? So that's 400 square feet. So let me ask you a problem. How many acres are there in 123,456 square feet? 123,000, you'll like this number. So, how do I figure this? Right. If there is 43,560 square feet into 1 acre, I need to figure how many of those fit into 123,456. So you would take the 123,000, 123,456 That little square with the line drawn through it like that is the architectural symbol for square foot. Times, there are 43,560 square feet in 1 acre. Square feet cross out, so I've got 123, 456, divided by 43,560, and I come up with 2.83 acres. Everybody get that? Common real world problem. Common real world problem. So how many square feet are there in 7.5 acres? Let's go the other way. Farmer tells you, I've got 7.5 acres and I need something. Square feet are in my land. You would take 7.5 acres times 43,560 square feet. You end up with 326,700 square feet in that farmer's land. Now I know you're thinking, well, why do I care about that? Because here's what's going to happen. The farmer's going to come to you and go, hey, I want to list my property. My property is 750 by 2,000. My neighbor just sold his property. I want to beat him, so I want $15,000 an acre. What's my list price going to be? So you need to figure out, first of all, he didn't give you the acres. He gave you his property dimension. 750 feet by 2,000 feet is how many acres? I don't think that's right, is it? $750 feet times 2,000 feet. Yeah, that sounds more like it. Now he wants $15,000 per every one of those. So multiply that by 15,000. You end up with, at least hopefully, get what I got, $516,530. That's the listing price of the property they just gave you. Very common third world problem. First world equation. Do what? So now the buyer comes in and he says, well, we pay $2,700 per front foot for that property. So how much is their offer? If we assume, and here's the if for everybody, that the 750 feet is on the main artery, they're going to pay $2,700 per front foot. How much is their offer? It would be 750 times $2,700. They're going to offer in the realm of $2 million, a little over. And that guy said, well, I wanted 516 and you're offering me $2 million? Sold. You guys remember that house I told you yesterday that was the high-end home for $2.1 million? Talked to the guy last night. He said if you bring a buyer, he'll pay you $100,000 for the buyer. One of my favorite stories, I was standing in Vegas one day. Everybody's been to Vegas. All the way on the one end is the Montego Bay, is the furthest one. Across the street from the Montego Bay, there's a sign that says 33 acres. Touches McCarran Airport. So I call the guy, and he answers, and I start this with, I am not your buyer, but I wondered if you'd talk to me for a minute. He's like, yeah. I said, look, I own a brokerage in Indiana. Just want to talk to you about Vegas property compared to Indiana. He's like, hey, how's the market going? He's like, it's pretty good. I said, so what do you got? He said 33.5 acres, touches McCarran Airport. He said it's going to be a great development property. I'm like, oh, that'd really be cool. I said, if you don't mind me asking, how much? He said 30 million. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. He's like, son, that's per acre. It's a $990 million piece of property. It was a $1 billion piece of property. And I'm like, whoa, I am definitely not your buyer now. I'm like, dude, are you serious? He's like, oh yeah, I'll get it. He said, I've had it for 3 or 4 years. Well, next year or two. He goes, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You bring me a buyer from Indiana, and I'll pay you a flat $1 million to bring me a buyer. And I thought, $1 million, that's cool. Then I started doing the math. I'm like, that's 1%. Dude's trying to cheat me. You know? But it was $1 billion. And I said, $1 billion with a B. I said, so how much all in? He's like, once you get done with your permitting and your condos and the casino, you're probably going to be in $5.5 to $6 billion. I'm like, boy, you're using that B word pretty easy, aren't you? I said, do you think you sell it? Yeah. He said, yeah, I'll sell it. It'll probably be in a foreign investor or a big investment group. He said, but he said, I'll sell it to you right now for $950 million. Ooh, will you take a check? I can own it for about as long as it takes you to get to the bank. It's the most expensive land I've seen, $1 billion. I saw $100,000 an acre when I was in Florida. Was 8 acres, and they want 800,000 down by Palm Beach, right in that area. And I thought that was bad. We walked on the beach. It was all sill sand. I got in the car, and I'm like, dude, I got to shake out about 20 grand worth of your sand, because at that kind of price, I can't afford to take the sand home with me. All right, there are questions that you guys better do. In the back of the book, math questions. Real big on math questions. A lot of math, front foot, a lot of area calculations. Remember, there are some areas, we talked about the square, and you guys said this example was 20 by 20. What about this example? What about a piece of property that kind of looks like Nevada? The easiest way to do something like this, remember, is to break it up. That is a square with a triangle, right? You can say, well, that's a triangle, that's a square. I could do that plus that area. And I'm sure you guys all remember what the area of a triangle is, right? 1/2 base times height. Here's an easy way to remember that. Triangle is 1/2 of that rectangle. So the rectangle is just base times height, right? And you're only taking half of it. So you can add together areas. Any questions about this chapter? All right.